History often remembers diplomacy as the calm voice of reason between rival nations. Treaties are signed, ambassadors shake hands, and official statements promise peace and cooperation. Yet behind many of those polished negotiations lies a far more secret world, one where intelligence agencies quietly shape events from the shadows. Spies intercept messages, double agents manipulate information, and covert operations sometimes sabotage the very diplomacy governments publicly claim to support. This hidden struggle between intelligence and diplomacy has repeatedly produced scandals, betrayals, and international embarrassment. In some cases, secret operations expose the true intentions of rival powers. In others, intelligence agencies created crises that diplomats were then forced to manage. The result is a strange and often shocking pattern in modern history. Negotiations carried out in daylight while espionage unfolds in the dark. One of the earliest examples came during the First World War with the Zimmermann telegram. In early 1917, British intelligence intercepted and decoded a secret message sent by German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann to the German ambassador in Mexico. The message proposed a startling plan. If the United States entered the war against Germany, Mexico should ally with Germany. In return, Germany promised support for Mexico to reclaim territories it had lost to the United States: Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. British cryptographers understood immediately that the message could change the course of the war. But revealing the telegram created a diplomatic dilemma. If Britain exposed the message directly, Germany would realize its codes had been broken. After carefully crafting a strategy to hide the source of the intelligence, British officials shared the telegram with Washington. When the message was published in American newspapers, public outrage erupted. The revelation helped push the United States into the war, demonstrating how intelligence interception could alter global diplomacy overnight. Decades later, during the Cold War, espionage would penetrate diplomacy even more deeply. One of the most extraordinary examples involved Kim Philby, a senior officer in British intelligence who secretly worked for the Soviet Union for decades. Philby rose to a position where he coordinated intelligence cooperation between Britain and the United States. From offices in Washington, he had access to sensitive information about Western operations against the Soviet bloc. Yet behind the scenes, Philby was passing secrets to Moscow. He warned Soviet intelligence about Western spies operating behind the Iron Curtain, allowing many of them to be captured or killed. For years, American officials trusted Philby as a close ally. When suspicions eventually surfaced, the resulting scandal shocked intelligence communities on both sides of the Atlantic. The episode exposed how deeply Soviet intelligence had infiltrated Western diplomatic and intelligence institutions. Philby was not alone. He was part of the infamous Cambridge spy ring, a group of British elites recruited by Soviet intelligence during the 1930s. Members of this network eventually entered positions within Britain's foreign service and intelligence agencies. Their access allowed the Soviet Union to monitor Western diplomatic strategies for years. The discovery of these spies shattered confidence within Western intelligence and forced governments to confront an uncomfortable truth: the enemy had been sitting inside their own institutions. Cold War tensions also produced spectacular diplomatic embarrassments when covert operations were exposed. One of the most dramatic occurred in 1960 with the U-2 spy plane incident. The United States had been conducting secret, high-altitude reconnaissance flights over the Soviet Union to photograph military installations. American officials believed the aircraft flew too high for Soviet defenses to reach. On May 1, 1960, that assumption proved disastrously wrong. A Soviet missile shot down a U-2 plane piloted by Francis Gary Powers. Initially, the United States claimed the aircraft was a weather research plane that had strayed off course. But Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev soon revealed that the pilot had survived and confessed to the espionage mission. The Soviet government displayed wreckage from the aircraft and evidence of its surveillance equipment. The diplomatic consequences were immediate. A planned summit between the United States and the Soviet Union collapsed. The incident publicly exposed American intelligence operations and humiliated the U.S. government on the world stage. Espionage also influenced political events far beyond the battlefield. In 1948, Italy's first post-war democratic election became a major Cold War battleground. Western governments feared that the Italian Communist Party might win the vote and shift the country into the Soviet sphere of influence. In response, American intelligence agencies launched a massive covert effort to influence the election. The operation included secret funding for political parties, propaganda campaigns, and pressure through diplomatic channels. Millions of dollars flowed into Italy to support anti-communist groups. While the intervention helped secure a victory for pro-Western parties, it also demonstrated how intelligence agencies were willing to manipulate democratic processes to achieve geopolitical goals. Berlin became another focal point of Cold War espionage. Divided between East and West, the city functioned as a gathering place for intelligence officers from both sides. One of the most ambitious intelligence projects in Berlin was Operation Gold, a joint CIA and British MI6 effort to construct a tunnel beneath East Berlin. The tunnel allowed Western intelligence to tap into Soviet military communication lines. For months, American and British analysts listened to conversations between Soviet commanders. The operation appeared to be a remarkable intelligence success until it was revealed that the entire project had been compromised from the beginning. A British intelligence officer named George Blake had secretly been working for the Soviet Union. Blake informed Soviet intelligence about the tunnel long before it became operational. Rather than expose the operation immediately, the Soviets allowed the tunnel to operate for months, carefully managing the information transmitted through the tapped lines. The eventual exposure of the tunnel created another embarrassing moment for Western intelligence. Espionage also played a critical role during the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, when the world came closer to nuclear war than ever before. American reconnaissance aircraft photographed Soviet missile installations being constructed in Cuba. These images became the foundation of urgent diplomatic negotiations between the United States and the Soviet Union. Intelligence reports guided nearly every decision during the crisis. Analysts debated whether the missiles were operational and how quickly they could be launched. Diplomatic messages were exchanged while both sides secretly gathered more information. In this case, intelligence helped prevent catastrophe, but it also revealed how fragile diplomacy could be when both sides operated with incomplete or uncertain information. Espionage also penetrated scientific and technological secrets. During the Second World War, scientists working on the Manhattan Project developed the first atomic bombs. Among them was physicist Klaus Fuchs, who secretly passed information about the project to Soviet intelligence. His actions helped accelerate the Soviet Union's development of nuclear weapons. When Fuchs was eventually exposed, the revelation stunned both governments and the public. The discovery showed that even the most secret scientific project in history had been infiltrated by foreign intelligence. Intelligence scandals have continued into the modern era. Leaked documents have exposed surveillance programs that monitored not only rival nations but also close allies. In some cases, these revelations created diplomatic tensions between governments that were supposed to cooperate. Such leaks highlight a persistent paradox in international relations. Nations rely on diplomacy to maintain peace and cooperation, yet they also conduct secret intelligence operations against one another, even against their allies. The boundary between diplomacy and espionage is often blurred. Throughout the 20th century, spies frequently operated under diplomatic cover. Intelligence officers were assigned positions in embassies, cultural missions, or international organizations. Officially, they served as diplomats, but their true task was gathering information and cultivating sources. This practice allowed intelligence agencies to maintain a global presence while hiding behind the protections of diplomatic immunity. Occasionally, these hidden roles were exposed, leading to expulsions of diplomats and public accusations of espionage. Such incidents reminded the world that embassies were not only centers of diplomacy, but also arenas of intelligence competition. Despite the secrecy surrounding intelligence work, many of these stories eventually become public through declassified documents, memoirs, or investigative journalism. When they do, they often reveal surprising details about how global events unfolded behind closed doors. The stories collected in The Spy Who Sold a War show that intelligence agencies have repeatedly influenced the course of diplomacy. Sometimes they have prevented disasters by uncovering hidden threats. At other times, they have triggered crises through miscalculation or deception. These episodes also reveal the human side of espionage, ambitious officials seeking power, ideologues convinced they were serving a greater cause, and governments struggling to balance secrecy with accountability. Perhaps the most striking lesson is that international history rarely unfolds exactly as it appears on the surface. Public negotiations and official statements often hide a deeper struggle involving secret messages, covert operations, and double agents. Diplomacy may operate in the open, but intelligence works in the shadows, and when those shadows collide with the public world of international politics, the results can reshape history